Hello there, I'm Brandon.
And I'm Courtney.
Welcome to the Time Travelers Club. So, this is our introductory episode, just giving you an idea of what this podcast is going to be about, and just a little bit of, details about us and where we are taking the podcast, and what you could expect as a listener. So, start with, I'm Brandon. A little bit about me is that I am a recent graduate with 2 majors in both history and art history. I do for this podcast a lot of the research, some of the topic selection, things like that. Of course, I always check in with my friend Courtney here. But you could say that I'm the nerdy nerd of the two of us when it comes to this partnership. When you think nerd, that's that image. That's going to be me. Um, so and so I currently live in New York, and we are currently doing this as good friends. Just starting out and seeing where this goes. Before I went into history, I was an artist though, so I'm not all nerd. I am a bit of a creative type. I've been really wanting to do something like this for a few years now. I feel like I have all this useless knowledge that needs, well, not useless, but knowledge that needs to be shared. It cannot be contained within thy vessel. So,
It is a shaken Coke bottle. Let the pressure off.
Exactly. And I love documentaries, history podcasts, all that. And one of the things I always find frustrating is, as I have all this knowledge accumulated now, I'm always trying to find more and more and more info. But a lot of the podcasts out there or shows, they're geared to someone who doesn't have that background or experience, right? So they're hitting the broad strokes of things. And it's A, information I've already heard. B, sometimes misinformation. Because whenever you simplify anything or anyone's lives, you're missing out details that completely, if you include those details, could completely change your perspective on that topic.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I find myself scrolling and searching for hours and hours, and I just, I'm like, you know what? Maybe it's time I decided to create something because I can't be the only one struggling with this, right? So I'm going to hand it over to Courtney here for a minute, let her talk about herself.
It's all good. So I'm Courtney, also up here in New York. I'm a mother of 3 and also a spiritual practitioner for the last 20 years. I do call myself an eclectic witch. That is what I do. However, I have always had kind of a lady boner for history as well, to the point that I thought I was going to be an archaeologist. But life decided that it was going to take a sharp turn in terms of traditional education. So it has been a lot of self-education and a lot of just, oh, this interests me, I'm going to deep dive in on it. So while I may not be a master or have a degree, I do have an understanding of these things just because it has been a passion and an interest. And, as Brandon and I have become such fantastic friends, it's been so exciting to be able to discuss these things with somebody else, and we're both fangirling over history.
Mm-hmm. And to be fair, there is nothing wrong with being a layman. We all are. And I think a lot of people within my field forget that sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Because, we all go into it, not trained, but clearly with a passion for this thing. You don't go into the field of history unless you actually like it. It's not like engineering or something where you don't necessarily have to like it, but it makes good money and it's a respectable thing. History, if you don't like it, you're not gonna make it. It's too boring. Because they don't tell you about all the research. I mean, it's in your head.
Mm-hmm.
But if we are not, as human beings, and I had a history professor who said this, anyone who says that they are geared for research is lying to you. We as human beings are not like to just sit there and sift and for hours just to find the material. I'm not even talking about reading the material. I'm talking about finding the material. That
You
in
almost have to go on
itself,
an archaeological dig just to find it,
right?
let alone
And
understand
it's,
it.
well, it's funny too. Is like you said that about wanting to be an archaeologist. I did too once. Um, maybe one day I will be. I don't know.
I mean,
But
maybe.
it's a little different of a field. It's an anthropological field. It's a little different. I think sometimes people think historian, archaeologist, and they kind of blend the two images together, and they really are technically two completely different things.
Hmm.
Equally respectable. That wasn't always the case. It used to be historians were the real, players, and like archaeologists were just those silly little boys playing in the dirt, And it's like
I'm
we are, of
me.
course, realizing now. It's like, oh, well, I don't care what you dug up. This guy wrote this and said this is what happened. And of course, as we all know, sometimes people fabricate things, whereas
Yeah.
concrete forensic evidence doesn't lie. So the opinions have started to change. We're starting to realize you can't have just archaeological evidence with no context, because where would you even begin digging? But at the same time, you can't just ignore archaeological evidence and and just assume everyone's unbiased in history, because it's just not true.
No. Everyone has their own
And I
perspectives, and I think that is possibly one of the most beautiful things that we can do here is we can actually offer our take on somebody's perspective versus just this is what happened at this date and this battle happened then and then this
right.
happened too.
That's that, and to be honest, that is boring. That is boring when you just and historians, especially when you're thinking like public school, like high school, those kinds of places, like that's what they have to do, because they have to. It's about testing. It's about making sure you cram as much information as broadly as possible within a short amount of time. You can't be focused on a specific thing. And at that point, what are you doing? What you know what I'm saying? Like
You
you
are giving
can't.
history as a list. History is not a
Right.
list. It is history is fantasy book after fantasy book after fantasy book after another fantasy book because
It's
truth is stranger than
humanity. Like,
fiction.
history is the story of humanity, right? And human beings, and we are messy. We are dramatic. You have to know context. You have to know motivation. Why? I could give you a list of dates about Catherine the Great. I could tell you, where she was born. I could tell you that she married her husband, and then she ended up overthrowing him, and it just and all the accomplishments she did, and without context, it's pretty boring. You might be like, oh, that's cool, like respectable, but like you're not really connecting with that person. What like when we start
Yep.
questioning, how did some German princess from nowhere ended up ruling the entire Russian Empire and no one questioning it? Everyone was cool with that. Like, imagine that today if like some like person from like I don't know, like Guatemala, just one day went into the White House like, hey guys, I'm president now. We were all cool with it because there's not an election here. Let's be for real.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just like there's not the great modern comparison there, but my point is like, and like, why did she even overthrow her husband? When you start learning how she had all these hopes and positive like dreams, she's such a positive person. Her childhood stories, how like an entire wardrobe fell on her back. That could have been it. She was real messed up. Like we would have never had a Catherine the Great because at 8 years old she could have been crushed. Um, we could talk about how she had real bad mommy issues. Like her mom was whoo, you know.
Yep.
We can talk about the childhood story about how her parents, were expecting the emperor of Russia to show up. Again, like the president showing up to your house, and they were like, and every parent has been there. They have an important guest coming over, someone they're trying to impress. They're like, please just be good. Please be quiet. Be please. And do the kids ever do it?
Never.
No.
Not in a million years.
No.
That is the
No.
one
And
time that they're just like, Mommy, I'm about to have explosive diarrhea right here, right
and
now.
and And so in that story, the king of Prussia shows up, and known as Frederick the Great, a whole different person I want to cover one day, flaming homosexual, gotta cover him. Anyway, um, shows up, and she's tapping her little foot, puffing and puffing. And he eventually bites, and she goes, well, Mommy and Daddy said I have to kiss the coattails, but you wear them so short, and I can't reach it. And they were
Damn.
mortified.
Damn.
Mortified. And he
Kids.
laughed, and he bent over, he bent down a little bit so she could kiss his coattails, and he loved her from that day forward. Like, was her like her ally, and that was a hell of an ally to have. Like did a lot, like moving and shaking for her, like so, and like without that context, most people don't know that story. And yeah, I find that so endearing, and that's just a little slice of her that honestly is such a good reflection of like what she'll end up being. And that's what we're trying to do, is create those stories for you. So if you're expecting a 30-minute blurb about someone's life or an event, this isn't the one. But if you're looking to fully immerse yourself, to world build, and really get into the nitty-gritty on topics maybe you're even already familiar with, maybe you're not, this is the podcast
Oh, absolutely. And we're gonna make it fun. We're not boring people. We're not the Bueller. We're not those people. This is going to be relatable. It is going to actually be able to bring you in so you can see it, smell it, taste it, feel it, all of the things. This is going to hit all your senses.
And we're also going to cover a lot of different topics within that, right? It's not just like, so for example, the first arc we are currently working on, and we're going to be presenting to you shortly, is going to be the Cleopatra and Mark Antony arc, right? And without spoilers, even though, I mean, can you really spoil a story that's over 2,000 years old?
Possibly.
Can you? I mean, but that's okay. But like, it's not, that arc is not just about them. We are going to fully immerse you first. He's known as the new Dionysus. She's known as the new Isis. So we cover mythology. We cover the culture. We cover the places that they are coming from within those time periods. We are painting you that picture. And laughing and making obscene jokes along the way.
It's kind of a must, I think. To be fair.
Wait for the ISIS episode. Really, right in front of my salad.
Right in front of my
salad. You'll know when we get there.
Absolutely.
And if you don't know what that is, come on, guys. This is probably an above 21 episode, 21 plus episode, so maybe we just, keep that in mind. But if you're 21 and over, like, come on, you know what we're talking about.
Oh, yes.
But, so, that's just, some of the taste of some of what we're going to go through. But, like I said, we have plans to go all over the world and visit all these different cultures. Because all
these different time periods.
Correct. Hence the Time Travelers Club. We're not just, this isn't just ancient history. This isn't just the Roman history podcast, or, we are hitting all of it. And I think that's good, because sometimes, as a listener, I need that palate cleanser too. It's just like, you're really, like, I don't know, have like a special interest on like one thing for a little while, and then you're over it. Like, you're just like, you need to shake it up a bit. So,
the mac and cheese doesn't taste the same anymore.
Right. And we're not just going, okay, and then now we're going to try some Alfredo. No. Now we're going for sushi. So, but yeah, so like, just to give you a brief idea of like what we're, planning and going into the future with, we've discussed doing like the German witch trials, Meiji Restoration, the Enlightenment era in France, and many, many, many other places across time and space. I would love to at some point maybe do some Mesoamerican episodes. That's a little outside
Oh
my
my god,
forte, but
yes.
that's the whole point of this. But that's the whole point of this podcast. And I specialize in late medieval, early modern, Western European history. Um, but don't put me in a bubble. Don't put me in a box. I only that was my selection because I had to make one. So, originally I wanted to be an Egyptologist, and then I was like, then I was going to study Japanese history, and you know what? It just, you know,
Life.
life. But so, and because Courtney here's spiritual and things like that, we also want to go into like the religion and mythology and those kinds of things and like those spiritual aspects as well, because those are so important to understanding where people were coming from and what they were thinking,
Mm-hmm.
um, in any era, so in any place, you know.
Truly, truly,
So
because most of us here in America, we have a Christian framework. Even if we are deconstructing,
mhm.
even if things are different in how we view the world now, we were built in a Christian framework. You're good, you go to heaven. You're bad, you go to hell. These people have a different idea of the entire universe. And you have to be
or
able
even
to engulf yourself in it.
or even in some cases where some of this iconography even comes from in the first place, because
Mm-hmm.
spoiler alert, Christianity wasn't the only religion for a very long time, and still isn't. But it didn't come from a vacuum.
No.
A lot of these concepts got built up. You know, and like for example, one of the things that we'll talk a little bit when we're talking about ISIS, for example, is the idea of Isis lactans, or this image of the mother breastfeeding her child upon her lap. If that
Yep.
sounds familiar, it's because it is iconic. And some of the earliest Christians were Coptic Christians. And when you are trying to convert a pagan population, you need to take their imagery and can't just gut everything. People won't convert. But if you can say, oh, yeah, this image reminds us of this, it's very, see, we're similar to you. When you're looking at Dionysus, there's a lot of scholarly debate. Some people don't always agree with this, but I can see the through line. Um, because again, another early population that really took in Christianity were the Greeks, and Dionysian rites and rituals, the association with wine, the cycle of death and rebirth. Those are all things that are found within Christianity, and the iconography is there as well. So, but those are just some of the few things that we're going to talk about.
Absolutely. And with that, we don't want to talk your ear off, but this is our introduction to you. So at this time, subscribe to us. Give us a
Mm-hmm.
like. Give us a follow. We have a lot on our plate. We have things scheduled for so far in advance. There is no limit to what we can do here. So really, follow us along for the journey. We are here for you. Show us some love, and we're going to show you as much love as we can give.
Exactly. And you can find some of our socials are going to be on Facebook, TikTok, Instagrams, Patreon. And we, of course, we have an email address if you have any suggestions, questions, or just want to say hi. We love when people say hi. That is going to be the Time Travelers Club at gmail.com. So you can always reach out to us there as well. So with
Absolutely.
that being, yeah, and so with that being said, I think we'll sign off. And our first episode that's coming out is going to be about Dionysus. In that episode, we're going to start off with the main stories and myths. And, as a god of wine and party and good times, you know that the stories are going to be good. So check that out.
All right. Well, you guys have a wonderful rest of your day, night, morning, whatever it is, and we will catch you on our first episode.
Bye now.
Bye.